Hello everybody, and thank you for checking out this Level 30 Games review of Mario Golf Super Rush. My name is Tom, and I'm here to give you some thoughts on whether or not this game is a hole-in-one or a duff. I'll do my best to keep the golf puns to a minimum. Let's get started. Level 30 Games is not just reviews, but also podcasts, retro plays, and news, so subscribe if you want to get all that stuff from adults who love gaming, but also love living their lives. The preface for today's review is that I'm a big fan of Mario sports titles, a big fan of golf games, and a big fan of golf in real life. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour for the GameCube is one of my favorite sports games of all time, and thus the benchmark I had for this going in. Mario Golf on the 3DS was okay, and here I was hoping to see some semblance of the greatness achieved from Nintendo's GameCube golf outing. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. There was a point early on in playing Mario Golf Super Rush where I put down my controller and said, okay, I'm good. And sadly, that came about 35 minutes into story mode, having just completed all the tutorials and some practice holes against my fellow rookie golfers, Toadette, Boo, and Charging Chuck. Golf games are most successful when their mechanics are solid, and I don't know how solid these mechanics are. Realistic golf sims use the analog stick to represent your swing, but arcade-style golf games use a meter and some semblance of a three-point click. One to start your power, one to confirm your power, and one to gauge your accuracy. Super Rush's biggest problem for me lies in its execution of this mechanic. The meter in which you use gets wider at the top, representing a greater variance in accuracy the more power you try and use. It's even billed in some of the tutorials as a risk versus reward system. Tee shots, for example, have a small degree in accuracy change, while approach shots can be drastic depending on the lie and club selection. The problem, outside of the fact you don't even need to press a button after you select your power level, is that the accuracy is entirely randomized within the visual odds represented, which makes some shots more about luck than skill, going against the truth of the sport at its core. It's skill over luck more than anything. Anybody who golfs will tell you a story about how their ball hit a tree out of bounds and bounced into the fairway, or had a drive get 30 extra yards because it ran down the cart path. There are elements of luck to the game for sure. But your standard swing is not one of them, and the fact that Super Rush makes it a component to every swing feels wrong. Golf video games should have mechanics that reflect skill, even if it is simply timing button presses. That skill is what grows and gets you better at the game. Having an approach shot hook left of the green because the game's random number generator decided to hurt your accuracy is not fun, it's frustrating. The risk versus reward system here is broken because it either forces you to play safe or deal with things outside your control. Story mode is a fairly shallow affair, and while I was charmed early on, I was also sort of annoyed with a lot of the design choices. For one, characters talk a lot, but only have 2 or 3 sounds they emit when doing so, which gets old really fast.
Hey, hey! Yo, oh! Yeah!
You can talk to NPCs around the grounds, but they don't have anything significant to say, to the point where after talking to 2 random Koopas, I didn't really end up talking to anybody else, unless it involved advancing the story. In between tournaments, you have to go to and from your room, which is a lot of unnecessary travel. I just finished the first of 2 rounds? Okay, let me play the other one. I don't need to walk my character back to his room to sleep, only to immediately go through 3 additional loading screens to get back to where I just was to keep playing. These annoyances creep up early and don't get better. Speaking of unnecessary travel, let's talk about some of the various game modes you can play. And I want to start with Speed Golf, one of the more Nintendo-y offerings here, and something that on paper should be tons of fun. But it isn't. At least not really, and maybe with 3 other friends online there could be some fun to be had, but the Speed Golf the story mode forces at you is boring. 1, running to your ball isn't inherently fun when you have to juggle a stamina meter. 2, there is no advantage to rushing. Finishing before your opponents means you have to sit, wait, and watch them complete the hole. With that being the case, investing your stats into stamina and speed really don't mean much, so most of my stats went into power and control. Battle Golf was also another game mode that was fun, hectic, but ultimately not what I wanted. There was so much going on that it was either insanely fun or insanely frustrating. Now, the goal with Battle Golf here is that you need to complete 3 holes before anybody else, and you can finish those holes in any order you want to. This combines the movement of Speed Golf, so you will be running to your ball, but there are also Mario-themed obstacles littered throughout to slow you down. There is obvious frustration in having somebody finish a hole just as you were lining up your putt, and that is part of the fun. But I was also annoyed that I couldn't then cancel that putt, meaning I had to waste time taking a stroke while the person that just edged me out was already shooting towards their next hole. Both of these modes I was able to test out online with one other friend and 2 CPU opponents. And some of the fun will be lost without the means to communicate, so if you have buddies to play with, boot up that Discord server and get to chatting, because enjoyment and added pressure came from us yelling through our playtime together. There isn't one, but even having a 4-player split screen mode for this would be super fun.
Nice birdie!
Online mode itself is pretty solid. We didn't have a single connection issue, and the process of selecting a room and selecting the play options were clean and easy. Heck, Nintendo actually has an invite option to bring friends directly to your created room, which should be a standard thing, but hey, it's Nintendo. Still, much appreciated here. It's also where I found my most preferred way to play Mario Golf Super Rush. Moving past the battle and speed golfs and the lackluster story mode, which is incredibly easy by the way, is just simply playing a round of 18 with a friend. You have the option to take turns traditionally, but also to play simultaneously without the need to run after your ball. And it was here that we had the most fun, as you really just played against yourself with some added competition, but also at your own pace. You don't have to watch the other players' turns, which puts the focus solely on you playing well. Over a Discord chat, this was without question the best way to play the game. Now, I didn't talk much about character selection, but it is fairly robust. There are 17 characters to choose from, and they are all unlocked from the start. I do miss the process of unlocking them via beating them in the older Mario Golf titles, which gave you the advantage as playing as everybody at least once or twice, while also creating a challenge when playing against somebody higher than your character's stats. Here, they are all ready to go from the beginning, which I guess is good if you're playing locally with friends. One big downside is that power hitters definitely have the strongest advantage, as their shortcomings are outweighed by their ability to crush the ball an extra 30 yards each time. The most lopsided victories I had against my friend was when we were playing a power player versus a finesse player, and it wasn't even close. In the past, these characters have been handicapped with atrocious accuracy and ball control, but seeing as how accuracy is random, it's not as great an impact here. Beyond the standard golf courses and occasional Mario-esque themes, there really isn't anything too crazy, sadly. Nintendo did say recently during E3 that they would be releasing DLC updates, but what they will include is still up in the air. Now, Mario Tennis Aces is a great example of a game that worked the same way and built up its roster, but in this case, I'd happily take new courses. Give me Pebble Beach, but on the island of Delfino. Give me anything from the Mushroom Kingdom. There is a world of Mario goodness out there that would make for fun and interesting locales for new courses. Mario Golf Super Rush is a grab bag of ideas that work okay, some better on paper than others, and some only with friends versus alone. Your mileage may vary depending on how into golf games you typically are. It straddles this odd line where it's not quite serious enough about the golf components of the game, but not goofy enough with all the quirky Nintendo stuff. While the roster is pretty good, course selection is disappointingly light, but at the end of the day, it's the game's mechanics that are the biggest shortcoming. Luck over skill and lack of actual input makes this one golf game that is more of a bogey than a birdie. Well, that's all for this Level 30 Games review on Mario Golf Super Rush. I didn't have too many golf puns, so you're welcome. What do you think? Was my take a little harsh? If you're loving it, let me know why in the comments below. Like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next level.